mean, yeah. So yeah, so you got yang, yang, yin, yin, yang, yang, so on and so forth.
Cole's gonna write a song for us on that.
AI could probably write a song.
Probably. Hillbilly country level.
One of my favorite music people I follow on YouTube, he did this experiment where he had AI write a song, and it was a pretty good song. So here's the alarm points, just a quick reference. Actually, I was saying I needed to have these slides. I did. It was later in the thing. I have these all in a row so you can quickly access these when you're doing the photo. So 85%er, and then we'll go on to something else here, I promise. But pulse points, find the most efficient meridian, most efficient pulse point. There's almost always one. If there's more than one, check the wrist, check the TMJ, check the rate. There's something that's interfering with you getting that information. A few of you had found yours eventually. You had two. Somebody else, she's not back yet, but she had none until we started. I can't remember what we did. We did something, and we were able to get it. But she was all like, she didn't show any weak muscles. Anyway, so this is the protocol. Pulse point, find it, test the related muscle. Should be weak. If it's not weak, later I'll tell you how to deal with that. TL to the alarm point should strengthen the muscle. At that point, you can test her there. That one she didn't have. We were just,
that one.
Yeah. And but then she did. Then we did.
Yeah.
I can't. What did we do?
Finger. It was for circulation.
Okay.
Yeah, and then T5, I think.
Okay.
Stabilization.
But yeah.
We used a smaller muscle because she was strong everywhere.
It always boils with AK. It always boils down to how accurate your muscle testing. If your muscle testing is not accurate, all the rest of this is just it's just rabbit holes everywhere. And so always recheck your testing. Always constantly make sure your testing is refined. It can be. So you check nutrition, and then you go on to the. They're saying do the adjustment and then stimulate the total nutrition point. Honestly, I don't care which one you do, but you're going to want to do all of these, and then you'll see 85% of the time you'll clear a lot of stuff. A lot of times too, you'll clear smoke out of the room, so you can see where the actual fire is. That's what a lot of these techniques do. Pain control, we threw this in here. So this is kind of from a neurological, I won't make, you can read this on your own time, but the way you use acupuncture pain control is you do the same protocol, and then you say, does anyone have pain in here? Like, I mean, like real pain? You have pain in your jaw? Do you have pain? What meridian did you have?
Circulation.
That might, well, anyway, maybe we'll have to try this, but if you first tap on it or stimulate it with the laser or whatever, you'll actually stimulate it. If you keep tapping, you're going to cause the energy to sort of drain off. And if that's related to if it's pretty related to the painful area, that's how it theoretically reduces the pain. However, you're also causing an endorphin release because of the prolonged stimulation of these big, large, vast nerves. So from the neurological point of view, when you stimulate anything strong enough, that those big, loud signals will drown out the pain. Happens in acupuncture. It could be the endorphins. It could be what you're doing neurologically. It could also be that sheet in that direction where it's taking the pressure off the area. Anyway, that's kind of the auriculotherapy is kind of fun. Someone come up just really quick, we'll run through this. This is especially for you acupuncture.
I don't have to double with
You know,
Someone
You know,
come up with at
these
least
are all
one.
quiet for that.
But you get.
Al's gotten here.
Now, once again, I don't know any history. We don't know what's going on with you today. We haven't checked anything else. She could be switched, all kinds of things. So we're bypassing a lot of normal evaluating. So what you will do is you'll come up here. Basically, the spine is up. Here's it's like this human body upside down. Can you? See, I just start at the top, and she goes weak. They go here. Would be lumbar. Go. This is a fun party trick. Go to a party and things are kind of slow to get started. This is what you want to do. So that goes to the, now she's got an earring, just barely touch that earring. Metal, I'm not opposed to metal in the body, except that a lot of times it will act like a little antenna that can wick chi away. Earrings usually not too big a deal because there's not that much going on in this little hanging down part. But when earrings up in the helix there, the anti-helix, that you're right on this particular thing. Does anybody have eyebrow rings? This is triple warmer 23, where people use. So that's something I always caution people, if they haven't already, is that that's the ending point for the triple warmer. So I had a patient once, this was some years ago, she's a good example of this. She had a bunch of stuff and she was having every hypothyroid symptom on the list. And she had the getting an eyebrow ring had correlated perfectly with the onset of her symptoms. It had been going on for months. Out of the, she had no idea why she was gaining weight, blah, blah, blah. She was in her late 30s, she wasn't that old. I tested that ring and it just blew everything out. And I asked her to take it out. I can't remember. It seemed like it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that hard. But she took the ring out and a bunch of stuff cleared. So I thought, oh, case closed. I mean, this is slam dunk. She's got to be so blown away that we found this. And so I told her, come back and take the ring out, do this, come back in another couple of weeks or something. She ended up canceling her appointment, disappeared on me. I did see her around town later. She had that freaking ring. So I'm sure she went away from that thing. Oh, this guy's clearly a quack. Said my, but it was right at triple 123. So now other people have them and I test them and sometimes they don't. And you could also do like a little gentle, like you would for a skin scar where you just sort of deactivate it. But let's see if we can do that. She's just very good touching it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch it, and I'm going to stretch it. So I'm going to go. So okay, breathe in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically give it a little tug. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Maybe 3 times. So that kind of diffuses it so it doesn't. You have one on this side? Yeah. we got. What kind of metal are those, you know? Platinum?
Probably not.
Breathe in. So, just 3 times, breathe in. You can do this to rings, you can do this to scars. The healed, you can. Anyway, we go back to the, right here, touch here. Have to get to. Yeah, the lumbar. And that was me before. Now, thoracic showed a little bit, so keep hand there. And I can go down here and just kind of challenge. So right there, she's at T2, she's got a subluxation. So that's, anyway, that's the, and you get familiar with this, you can just kind of throw it into your protocol when you're doing, as you're testing different things, you can just go up and test that just for fun. Acupuncturists, I've seen people come in and they've had their little BBs taped to their different places on their hair. Is it gold?
Is there a certain kind of metal that's okay?
One of them stimulates and one sedates. Well, I think if metal has the ability to.
Or like wood.
What's that?
You remember someone had like a wood earring?
Well, wood's not gonna, wood wouldn't have the ability to amplify energy or pick up energy. I've never had, I don't like being poked, I don't have tattoos, I don't have any piercings,
We get acupuncture, yeah, everyone grab it.
Acupuncture doesn't bother me, but other needles, big needles. I don't like getting blood drawn.
Shots bother me.
I don't like shots, yeah. Acupuncture, for some reason, that doesn't bother me, but any other kind of pokey stuff, I'm not. I've only had stitches like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in my life. So, I'm just a baby. We're not gonna do this right now. We'll try to go back to this if we could. This is another pelvic, torso, cervical balancing trick that's way too time intensive for what you get out of it. But it is fun, and it can be. It works really well. It's just there's better ways to do it. But we will go back over that so you have a few. But IRT is what I want to go into next. Excuse me. I think I've mentioned IRT, injury recall technique, and some of you probably might be. So, I'm going to need you again.
Okay.
You can, I'll need somebody again. Thanks. So, this is, I got this from Dr. Wally. Dr. Wally Schmidt is who really developed IRT from a podiatrist technique. It's Dr. This Dr. Bronson was a podiatrist. He learned it from Dr. Crotty. All these guys are long gone now, but the podiatrist had discovered that there's this really interesting thing that happens with the talus when people have undergone trauma of some kind. That the body will go into this flexor withdrawal pattern and stick there. And the most, I guess, obvious example would be like you're walking along and you step on a sharp object with your bare feet, and this leg flexes, and the torso flexes, and the head extends. This is the classic thing. It's like an inborn pattern. And when there's an injury that actually causes tissue damage, that pattern gets sort of wired into the programming as sort of a temporary piece of programming, so that now you're like this until it heals. It's kind of a funky example, but that happens when there's been injury, fractures, surgery, bad cuts, bad sprains, anything where there's been damage to the tissue matrix and the corresponding sensory system. So when it heals, but there's this there's still this tape running. That's what the injury recall pattern is. Now, a lot of times the tape gets deactivated. The programming is no longer needed. One of my cousins, he's an engineer, but he has a lot of background in programming. He said, we call those demons. It's like those of you familiar with that, it's an acronym for some kind of a weird piece of programming that was written for a certain purpose at a time. And then and if it isn't deactivated, it keeps floating around and interfering with normal information processing. And that's what happens in the system. I'm not a computer guy, but pretty good analogy, the way he explained it. So Dr. Wally turned this into an AK technique. So it's basically the body has this memory of the injury and this adaptation to the injury that it hasn't unwired. And so here's a way we can do it. So here's the protocol goes like so. You start with a weak muscle. You might start with a number of muscles, but you're going to want to start with a weak muscle on this particular technique. And of course, now you have a history of, you start down this path because the patient has a history of trauma. And so you already know that they've had it. But they're assuming that it's healed and everything's fine. But yet you notice issues with their gait. There's all kinds of weird patterns going on. This is one of the first things to clear when you find it in new patients. So, because the glitchy neurological pattern ties in with your autonomic nervous system. So it'll result in triggering of improper vasodilation. This is just background. So the classic flexor withdrawal involves the side that's reacting to the painful stimulus. The foot dorsiflexes jamming the talus north. That's how this doctor found with all his patients who had some kind of trauma. The talus was jammed. And so what Dr. Wally Schmidt found, that there would be a weak muscle that doesn't respond to autogenic facilitation. And that autogenic facilitation just means spindling up. Like when session 1, where we find a weak muscle and we go to the middle 1/3 of the belly and we pull apart to turn up the spindle to see if it would turn on. A muscle that's weak for any number of reasons will turn on to spindle up temporarily, unless there's an IRT pattern or an IR pattern. If there's an IR pattern, it won't spindle up. And also, sometimes if they're hypertonic, they won't spindle down either. So that proprioceptive system that works so well with everything from patellar reflexes to spindling, all that, is negated when there's an IR pattern. Now, best way to teach this is to show it. Does anybody have a history of surgery or bad sprains? Ankle? Broken?
I broke when I was 8.
Okay, so chronic sprain. Okay, that's a good one. It can be years. I mean, you're however long, 8 plus. I've seen these come in for like 30, 40 years. I mean, I've seen the pattern there that was from a 30 or 40. Yes. Who else? The other trauma? Fractures? What?
I said I fractured my rib.
You read?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody broke an ankle or a leg? Which one? Which bone?
Left.
Left ankle, fibula?
I have
Fibula.
no idea. It was like 5.
Oh, okay. Any
21.
Headache, right?
Yes.
About 3 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. Anybody have something to say 5 years?
I broke my back when I was 17.
That was longer than 5 years.
Are you
That
saying
was like
that?
7 or
That's
8 years.
rude.
No, that was like at least 10 years.
I broke my big toe a year and a half ago and had surgery on it.
Oh, nice. Now that we can work with. I mean, all of these we can work with, but I want to do a demo of something that's, I got a pretty good shot of it. And it works, without a lot of extra fiddling. Please, I knew you were the right person. Yeah.
That's big toe comes in.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone remembers, but I was on a scooter riding around school. Yeah.
That's serious. Because think of all the other things that the scooter does. I mean, to your.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of tangents. So where would you enter this protocol? I mean, you would have a history of trauma. But obviously, how would you know where to start to look for a weak muscle? That'd be a good question, right? I'm sure some of you are thinking that. How do we know which weak muscle do we start with? Well, how do we find a weak? Well, this is how Dr. Wally, and this is the next thing we're going to learn is the TS line. Dr. Wally, I don't use this a ton, but Dr. Wally used the TS line. And what he would do is find a strong indicator muscle. And then he would go and he would just take his hand and he would press the lower part of the TS line. We'll learn this in just a little bit. Upper part. So then you can palpate along and you can look for a little right there. It'll be like a little BB underneath the muscle. There's like describes it as a BB under a raw slice of bacon. So that relates to this. We'll see this. That relates to right here. Or have you been adjusted yet? Okay.
Attempted. Yeah, yes.
This area.
About like 256.
So okay. So getting back. So there's a group of muscles that are associated with, I'm going to use, which toe was it?
Left big toe.
Okay, so there's a weak muscle I can try. It's on the left side. Let's have you, let's try this push out. Teres minor is weak. Let's have you do that. Their infraspinatus is weak. So these are all shoulder muscles, but they're on the same side. You remember limbic fixation from session before last? You guys remember limbic fixation? All of the muscles of one ankle will be weak, the side of the first rib. Now I'm going to spindle this up, this infraspinatus. Doesn't respond. I'll try the teres minor. So I'm just going in, just kind of doing this in the middle of the muscle. No. Okay, so we got this PMS. Okay, so I'm going to go into the PMS. Okay. And I'm just going to spindle. Oops, sorry. Look at that. Interesting. Now, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Now, can I take your shoe off?
Yeah.
Okay, so she had herself a broken toe. Where did it break? Here? God. Is it painful?
Yeah.
Did they fuse it?
No, but I
Did it
fell
hit it?
off my scooter a week after and I popped it out of the screws. That was just floating.
So there's two ways to activate the site of injury. You can, the examiner can rub it vigorously. And what this does, it brings it up on the screen in the sensory system in the brain. Or if it's convenient, the patient can touch the area. like a TL, and that will bring it up too. But that's not convenient, so I'm gonna do this. And then you've got a few second window where you can go and test muscle and see, this is perfect. Look at that. Wait a little bit, because her nervous system has reacted to that, but it's gonna go back to normal, especially if she uses that a little bit, pushing in my hand. Push, push, yeah, just use the muscles. Now, because we haven't fixed it yet, we've just found it. Push, push. Push, push. So, go back over here this time, I'm just gonna, that. Now, this is the perfect example of how this works. It's not always this clean, and that's just perfect. So I'm gonna treat it, but do you guys all get that with me so far? All those muscles turned on just from me rubbing your big toe. You get used to weird stuff like this being normal in age. Realize your patient is going to go at that point. She's like, yeah, you guys are like, yeah. Your patient out in the wild is going to go, that they're not going to understand, especially if they got a little bit of controlling stuff going on. It's pretty, everybody to some degree. They're going to like, this is nuts. What do you mean? You rubbed my toe and my muscles turned on.
You usually find when you're doing the RRT, like the same side, part turn.
There's a lot of times I'll find RRT in abdominal surgeries. Those are classic C-sections. Oh man, they leave all kinds of weird neurological stuff going on. Cranial, scars from like brain surgeries. Well, they're fantastic. I mean, they're just, they're not because they cause a lot of problems, but this works incredible on those. You kind of leave. Yes.
I just want to clarify. When they all the muscles on it,
Limbic fixation. Remember when we did all fixations, which is two or more vertebrae, right? Limbic fixation is a first rib C7T1. And the classic thing with that fixation is all of the muscles around, usually almost always the ipsilateral ankle will be.
for compaction.
Yes. It can have, not in the test, right? Compaction, all but one. And what does that one respond to? That one muscle will weaken, it'll be strong in the clear, but it will weaken
The contraction.
rapid muscle activation. And then you treat it with O and I. Remember that, I guarantee they'll have a question on that. So what do we do about this IRT thing? Now, if there was more sites of previous trauma, are there more sites?
It's an ankle.
Well, let's see.
A couple other broken toes, but.
Yeah.
I played soccer.
I think so. Yeah, I was a skydiver. Race motocross. Other than that, so those are all weak again, right? Because we haven't fixed anything. Let's go to the ankle. She mentioned the ankle. I haven't cleared it, so we'll see. That doesn't do it. Let's go up into the. That does it. So there's some issue with the proneus, which of course is the muscle that protects our ankle. If you have a chronic inversion issue, you've got a proneus issue. So that's an IRT too. So I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. So to fix it, you go in. To fix it, you go in and you stimulate it as much as you can. If it's a scar, you rub it. If it's a site of previous strain, you kind of rub it. If it's old fracture site, you rub it, and then you, now I'm gonna do both of them. So I did the Cronius, and then I go to this, and I just try to wake up as many sensory channels as I can, including pain. I mean, a little bit of nociception. I'm just gonna adjust that too while we're at it. And then I flick Alice 2 or 3 times. Rub the injured site, flick the talus, then I'll actually do the other talus too, just to be ornery. What happens is the talus sends a bolt of proprioceptive input to the sensory system. And that, the way it's explained to me, acts like a power surge. So it kind of breaks loose and dislodges this pattern of response that's been kind of, that's just accurately I can describe it. Now we did that, let's see what happens. That turned on. That turned on. And that one didn't. Now, they will sometimes turn on, but they don't always turn on. But what they do, if you cleared the IRT, is they will respond to autogenic facilitation, or AF. So there we went in here like there, and it didn't strengthen it before. Right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
You still there? I know, sorry. And it did. So it cleared, it made it now respond normally to AF. So that's IRT. And that's a perfect example of it. I mean, that's a really clear-cut example. Now get up and walk around. I could have done any number of things to her ankle and probably gotten rid of some weak muscles and different things. But then if the IRT pattern wasn't addressed, it'll eventually. One of the classic examples is it causes an asymmetrical gain. So one side is responding normally, you come down to this side, and because of that, the brain thinks there's still maybe an injury there. It changes how it facilitates and inhibits.
Would you want to like look?
Could, I mean, yeah, you could. You could start, you could address this at any stage along the way, but it's usually, Wally would always talk about the importance of clearing it first. It's one of the first things he would identify old injuries and start to clear it. And usually, a lot of times, did you really give it a good test drive?
Yeah, I dropped some.
Oh, good.
Quick 5-miler.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one.
Wow, it didn't weaken. That was weak in the clear, remember? That was weak in the clear. That's still weak, but maybe we didn't get it all. I'm going to go back to this scene of the crime. No, it's something else. Go back to this. But does it facilitate? Sorry, one more time. With autogenic facilitation? Yes, it does. So the muscle's ready to be fixed. The IRT is not a factor anymore. There's other factors. Yes.
You want to check the like as well as the outside?
I would if I wasn't wanting to just demonstrate IRT.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'd be all over that. Yeah, and that, you know, we can check. Go ahead and bring this up. You've had this worked on, haven't you? Down and in. Oh. Yeah, she's still weak in the hip posterior, down and out. Ooh, okay, wait a minute here. She's got 2 of the 4 directions kind of weak. So without getting off in the weeds too much down and in. Yeah, so her talus, she's got a talus that's a little off. So, yeah, that's another side thing. But
So with this, you're just focusing.
I'm just wanting to clear the IRT pattern.
Okay.
And so we did do that. Now there's other stuff going on. Yeah, and but she walked around and challenged the whole mechanism, and the two of those muscles that were originally weak didn't go weak again. So that's we got 2 out of 3. So we still got something to do with that. And there could be pelvic stuff, but this is a really key technique to bring in early in your evaluation. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that in. It was an excellent example.
Of course.
Question.
Where are my glasses? Shut up.
Right there. Right here. You guys, musician I love is James McMurtry. One of my favorite songs. He writes a song about losing his glasses. He's an old guy too.
He also adjusted all.
You could. And Wally used to talk about that a lot. He says, when he was learning it he learned the talar manipulation from this Dr. Bronson, the podiatrist. And he said, now you're only doing it to stimulate afferent. You're not trying. Now, it may so be that the talus is kind of jammed and needs a little, and a lot of times I'll go ahead and adjust it. But for this, you're not, they call it a micro manipulation. You're just flicking it. Now, there's a second part to it. If it's T6 or above, you use the occiput. And does anybody have a shoulder injury, shoulder surgery? Yes. Injury. What, traumatic?
Crushing snowboarding injuries.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Was it, it's probably been treated. Yeah, that's always the thing. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that might be worth looking at. So obviously you get into the shoulder, you're above T6. Which one?
This one.
You're right-handed?
Yes.
Okay. So, wow, here we are, we're about ready to go into the shoulder muscles, but we worked on this before.
I think so.
A little bit. So that's not too bad. What am I testing? Posterior delt. All right, so the anterior, middle are fine. Okay, am I testing?
It's right.
I testing down. Middle and lower serratus. So, now, can't see, but I'm doing this. So what am I testing? Rhomboid, right? Rhomboid. Shoulder up. Let it go. So upper trap. Let's see. So the injury was you hit like this.
Yeah, fell into it.
So I'm gonna, the rhomboid's weak. Let's see what's going on with the PMC is firing too well. Aim towards that. PMS is good. Okay, what am I testing now? Heck minor. Everybody got that? Heck minor. And heck major, clavicular external. Now, we're going to learn this one pretty soon. That's coracobrachialis. And that's not too good. And sometimes the bigger muscles recover pretty well, but the little ones are still, they're more sensitive to these aberrant programs. I'm gonna brace his hand, I'm gonna push out. This is subclavius. That's a little muscle right here. You're gonna learn that here a little bit. So I wanna find out first, are these gonna auto facilitate? This PMC is probably the easiest one to get to. So I'm gonna go in there and just kind of pry it apart a little bit. And it doesn't, so that qualifies. So I'm gonna come in here first, and I'm just gonna rub right where that clavicle comes in, AC joint. And then I'm gonna go back here, and that turns on. So that is a qualifying. Oh wow, I turned that one on too. Now walk, stand up and just move around a little bit. I want to get the weakness back. I got lucky. It could have been here. It probably got jammed here and jammed here.
Yeah, I had pain both sides.
Yeah, one.
I had pain here and here. where I
Okay,
crushed
makes sense.
stuff,
Yeah. And so the subclavius is involved, as is the pec. Let's see this. So this time I'm going to go to the SC joint. That doesn't seem to respond. Let's go back into the levator area here. And that does it. So let's go back to, and that was pretty good actually there. Yeah, see that doesn't show unless we use it to now, walk your head back for me. So I'm doing that because I'm going to use that to see if there's an IRT pattern, which I'm pretty sure there is. Is there? Now rock your head back. So when you rock it, I'm going to have you lay on your back. So we did the same thing we did with L, only we did it in the upper part of the body. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate that area of injury. I think it's mainly this one that has the IRT piece to it. This one doesn't seem to show, but we'll check it again afterwards. And then, so what I do is I rub it, activate it, and then I'm going to take his head, I'm going to tip it up, and I'm just going to give it a couple of little occipital nods, just like that. And I usually do it twice. Why not? Doesn't take long. Make sure you get as many neurons involved as possible. 1, 2. It's so simple. It's such a small little gentle movement that, see, that turned on. That turned on. Now this was the other one we had weak. That turned on. And the rhomboid, third one, is and actually that turned on too. So now, not doing anything else or considering anything else, that the IRT was the main show, and that's how that worked. So if I hadn't done the IRT, and he hasn't had IRT, soon, he's had a lot of probably a really good care continually. But maybe that care will hold better now. If that pattern is, rearing its head. You can check for IRT. They'll come back, or I think what happens is you get pieces of them. Sometimes like a big, long, deep scar on somebody. It's like you keep finding more of that that response in that tissue. Less all the time, every time you do it, but eventually you'll get it. But those can. Wally used to say that if you do it, you pretty much never have to do it again. But seems if it's a serious injury, sometimes you do. At least I have had to. Maybe I'm as good as Wally was. But anyway, thank you. That was another good example of IRT. So we went here because it was above T6. Any questions? So when we do other testing protocols, if something, if you find a weak muscle in the clear, try auto-facilitating it. Go into the spindle and spindle up. See if that turns on. If it doesn't, when we're doing workshopping other stuff, let me know, because you've probably got an IRT. And that will muck up your findings with other stuff. Wally found IRT to be really good at getting rid of certain kinds of gait problems and certain kinds of pelvic, especially pelvic problems, upper cervical issues. He saw it have a profound effect on people's allergies and severity of their allergies. But when you can modulate the autonomic nervous system in a positive way, you can affect all kinds of different things. So, no questions. This is the flow chart. Got rid of all the other slides. This is the one you want to have handy. Patient touches the area if it's convenient and biomechanically possible, or the examiner rubs the area. Patient touches it, the TL is usually enough. Well, this is the micromanipulation. A couple different ways to do it. That's the way Dr. Wally, he would just take his thumb and flick it. That way he wasn't tempted to over if you get on it like you. Okay, this temporosphenoidal line was something that came out of SOT. Dr. Desjardins, guys, some of you studied SOT. You said you would study cranial sacral, which came out of SOT. Sacral-occipital technique. It was discovered that there was a correlation along the temporosphenoidal line to all the different parts of the spine, and the different muscles associated with those parts of the spine. And M.L. Reese, who was a student of Desjardins, a long-time student, he's the one that took it and started developing the program. He used a lot of correlations between the TS points and visceral, did a lot of visceral manipulation stuff. But anyway, his contribution to AK was this TS line. And here's these are the points along the line and the muscles that they correlate to. The second one too is these two are both psoas. So Wally and a lot of other people that use they would just palpate along that, and they'd feel a little BB under a raw slice of bacon, kind of. Then they would know which muscle to go to. This is another shortcut way to get to the problem. Now you don't know once you get to that muscle if it's you don't know if it's involved with the IRT path, just for some reason, but you build muscles. This thing's pretty active. Why? Gosh, I don't know. Why are these points there? I don't know. Like all the points in the feet that correlate to all the organs. It's pretty interesting. So it's just another schematic. We kind of break them into groups. I studied with a doc from back in New York. He was a student of MLB's and had ended up teaching his stuff. And I learned all his visceral work. This was some years ago. And this was how we approached the TS line in that work. Just we would go by section, and then it was, otherwise you're kind of like, if you do this, it's a more organized approach. We will workshop this here in a bit. Now, the temporosphenoidal line was also used the same way we use like a priority mudra, or it's a way to sort of tell if the treatment is done. You can also, you're testing like a couple of different supplements or something, and both of them test positive. You can do that 2 or 3 times, and a lot of times get the correct one. So it's a way to filter body's response and try to get. If the body's trying to tell you too many things. But it's the same line, but it's used differently. It's also been used for habit control, where you where the left side you use positive affirmations, right side you use I can do fine without eating sugar. There's no need for me to eat sugar. And some people found that to be reducing the emotional reaction to emotional component to the habit. So anyway, TS line is just something you can use as a shortcut to tap into the daily. I use it mainly to see what vertebral level that needs attention. So, some of you are familiar with EFT, right? So we have more cranial bones. Let me just do a quick TS line on somebody with a TS line or 2. Now remember the temporal bulge cranial that we learned? Temporal bulge and the parietal descent. That involves that cranial suture. So, now it's kind of handier to kind of come in for the patient. So I put the first group, which is right along the zygomatic arch, the second group. That so L4. So that showed on our TS line. Now, what would I do from that? Well, I work, but maybe there's other things. Okay. So that was right here. Go to this one here. Something there, so then I just go 1. So she's got 4 somewhere. Now, do I know, is that exactly the vertebrae? Yeah, it's pretty close. It's either somewhere in the T9. So yeah, so your body is very, very willing to tell us what we need. So her T9, I know her L4 need. Got that just from. Now we can go to the other side and see. Usually that. Let's do this. No, it doesn't show at all. So, yeah. Now, Dr. Davis, who I learned this stuff from, who's a student of peace, he only used the right side. He was of the opinion that the right side was going to give you all the information you needed. I was never comfortable with that, so I test both sides. But in this case, the right side gave us two findings. Side gave us. Anyway, thank you. So if I was going to carry on with that, we chase, hang on to those at L4 and T9. You guys ready to do some more cranials, or do you want to workshop the? Now, you workshop the meridians. Want to workshop the TS line? It's pretty quick. Just workshop it real quick. So, zygomatic, right? What do they call what do they call this? Right? What is that called? Orbital ridge, I think. Above the arch. I think this little thin ridge right here, I think it's called an orbital ridge. Maybe this. Anyway, and then you cut from there, you come right up, you follow the line right to about there. And
How do you know you're not T? Is that amount of fingers you're using?
you are TL.
Oh, okay. To go specific, but how do you know it's not like a T issue?
Well, you might not. Yeah. You have to check both sometimes. But you're no, a lot of times TMJ is an issue there. That's a good question. Sometimes you just know. So let's pair up and do the TS one.
Oh, no, we're dead. Yeah, right.
When I come here, pulling it out before the plane.
You can feel it right away.
And I use it all this
That's this
morning.
Yeah, because it's bad. You're familiar, and like the gate, familiar can like stand out in the
get
gate
that.
when we go out to dinner.
Oh, you want to sit this way?
Sure, I'm just putting my, or, I'll come over there. I'm just putting my stuff in there.
Guys, hey, quick clarification. Quick clarification. Now, I just demonstrated the way I do this, and that's the way I learned from Davis. Honestly, in the classic AK approach, you have the patient TL. Now, if you find a weak one, maybe do it both ways, but go ahead and do it with Dr. TL. And but if they ask you on the test, it's always patient TL. Hopefully the ICAK will see this.
They will.
So, yeah. Light palpation, it's very light. You know, you have a question. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Like once.
Now,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of what I'm supposed to do. All right, let's start.
Oh, that is hard, yeah.
Aren't you supposed to like
Yeah.
Oh, you could. Does it matter?
Just like grouped together, yeah, right on top of it.
right here. Probably, but I that one's like right there.
Other side. Four positions.
Yeah, there's a. Did you say that's weird?
So usually there's one.
The three. Oh, I'm seeing.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know, that's
Maybe your head's wrong, so then you test it.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then I'll
I was on a.
All right.
But that would have to do this. Yeah.
so it would, it's a way that you, it's a way to get you those movements.
So, I'm just
Are you ready?
That's why it's good. It's kind of weird. I have seen these. Girl. Nice. That's how I'm afraid.
About like how,
$5 minute walk. Got a little bit, so she can't take it out. I'm gonna be as lush as you can. It's still got a nice little button.
Oh, it's not touchscreen.
Oh, no. Accidentally touched it.
I'm trying. You could have. I was trying.
It's gonna be good. Taking her to the ocean again. Now that she's oh, I don't think I realized you had a cat and a dog.
technically, the cat
I would think so. Yeah, that's you guys' dog. Show him. I am so he is this. And, oh, more like the sense of like discipline and stuff. She's like, no. Yeah, he's not. Oh, okay. Oh, I just had these thoughts. Oh, you mean like right now? It's fine. I don't know. I might need more. Okay, can you?
I'm trying to follow. The line.
That would be
You guys-
I think so.
I'm sorry.
No, that's too.
Okay.
All right.
They are having
Okay.
that.
No, I'm scared for it.
So happy. Jonathan wants to know, is that to him or me? I'm not sure. He's like, you better ask him. I was like, all right. What do you got? I said,
Look at this
you know what?
versus look at that.
I was gonna be like, he's gonna say you because you're prettier. That sounds like a deep answer. Grass. Grass. Oh, you said grass.
Yes, you are way prettier.
Well, kind of. Right on the red. Yeah, exactly. I'm running another
A
auto.
whole lot more gray than I do before I started.
Okay.
Not like terribly out of line.
No, it's just, no, it's like.
Yeah.
Pretty much we like are under fatigue. So we'll have to get out of this. So I'm just like, you're right. Am I busy?
Wake up if I could tired, I'd be tired all day long. I was like, all right.
Okay.
I just woke up.
I need you guys attention. So go ahead and you guys can finish, but I want to do one TS line and do an adjustment at the area that it indicates, and then see if the TS line code goes away. So we'll do that on somebody. If somebody somebody had a T6, is that you, Ellen? Somebody had a T6. A T5. Maybe we could do, but you're doing the fixation. Finish your fixation, and then let me check you and to see if which was the
So I was like,
It's inconvenient. I've been
he had a sleep.
I don't like you.
Oh, no, it's here.
So, let's see. This is.
Okay.
Hey, guys,
I'm sorry. Perfect.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we have right here, that's about T4, T5. And then if we come down here, that's T4. And her rib is a little off on the right. It's challenging it. Can you adjust that? Okay. I'm gonna have you lay on your back. We're gonna do supine, old school. Okay. Now, go ahead and put your head. And I'm gonna bring you way up, deep breath in. And I'm just under T4, right? Good job. Now, up again. And that was the point. Enough. Just like you guys, right? After you did the fix it. So it's a great way to steer you to, if you're going to do a high volume like adjusting practice, this would be an essential technique. Not going to spend near as much time, You're just looking for rapid fire adjusting. Thank you. She's got some other stuff too, but so any questions on TS line?
The TS line, but I was just wondering, I don't know if we have time for it, if you'd be able to, or willing to do like an adjustment. Something like mini workshop to show your technique.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody else.
I would like to do that. I would love to do that.
Yeah, if we have time.
We have time. Yeah, I would. I'd love to do an extra seminar.
Yeah.
But somebody else would have to organize. No, that would be.
Got more work to do, apparently.
So, are we ready to do some more creations? Do you guys like creations? I really like creations. Some people like it. I make sure I'm in a pro-cranial environment. I know. Some chiropractors are anti-cranial. They just can't. It's just too Nancy-pansy.
You probably finally get all the things back in place.
So, you guys need a short breather, heat break, or water break, or anything? Water. Take a couple minutes, and then we'll dive into the world of the cranial. Fast motions would be best.
My favorite. That's great.
So you talked to Rachel?
No,
I had a, must have been 2 months ago,
okay.
and had like 3 or 4 or 5 text connections. And then nothing.
It's gotta be super great. Is that like a popular song? That one, or is it like a popular song?
She must be.
So like any of whatever's popular. Yeah.
Anyway, of course, yeah, that was on,
I love Enya.
I listen to her album like all the time.
It's so, dude, she's rich, she has a castle, she doesn't have any boyfriends, she has like 10 cats and she lives in a castle alone.
Oh, okay,
Millions.
so that's why I was like, you're popular, I think.
Enya? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Flora's Secret by Inya, I love it. But
oh, you mean the singer in?
Yeah.
She
That's
lives,
what she lives in a castle, she has millions, she lives with the cats, and she just lives her life.
she's not singing anymore.
No.
Gosh, she's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I wish she was.
what am I waiting for? This is my childhood. I had
I
like,
know it's like fall.
I know, I love
like
it.
I had Inya and Backstreet Boys.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
When I was getting
I had both CDs. Yep.
I gotta get me a castle, man.
Castle.
I just need to get more castles.
Do you have an angelic voice like Enya?
I don't think I can make it.
You know, there's AI.
Yeah.
Anything can be
You sound
auto-tuned to that.
great.
She used
Just don't go touring.
She was an early adopter.
See?
A lot of
It
it.
was. I mean, you can hear it in some of her recordings.
She was a doctor.
No.
Oh, she's.
Auto-tune.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
sorry.
She was actually a doctor. Auto tuner.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was making fun of it earlier.
What are you making fun
I'm
of?
just, I would like to see the kid.
This reminds me of like the first tablets.
It's like an iPhone, just I watered it.
This is an iPhone.
They sell these. Did you get too sick of the other one?
I started with that one. but I liked it.
This is literally the cutest thing I've ever
Can you see that screen?
That's why these two super big.
And second, yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Just asking.
That's why they have
Every
readers.
time.
Concern for your eyes. He chose Sass.
Okay, that was, that's good. That is so good attitude today. I didn't know they made them that small.
And we flew in the first year. And I got that's good.
That looks good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the ginormous thing that.
Cheese isn't even big.
And I could
Yeah.
just, I always spot.
That's my wife.
Can I be your demo?
Because she
Can I be your demo? Can I be your demo?
Demo, thanks to dummy.
That too.
Sure, what do you got?
Probably yes.
Okay.
You're like,
Hey, guys, are
whatever.
you ready?
Break that.
Okay, so quick review on the movement of the cranial bones. Memorize this, and if you memorize the movement of the individual bones, you can always figure your way. You're always thinking about when they breathe in and out, that they go through these motions. So, remember the temporal bones flare on inspiration. The mastoid moves between posterior and inferior on inspiration. The parietal bones separate on inspiration. The sphenoid pivots in the middle and it goes into flexion on inspiration. Occiput moves forward along with, as the sphenoid moves into flexion, the occiput follows it. Mastoids move in the other way. It's very, very minute. Sacrum and occiput work together. The innominate on inspiration, the innominate bones of the pelvis flare, just like the temporal bones. The mastoids, the ischial tuberosities move back, they move back and together. So flaring is like this, something like that. So remember that, and so there's three kinds. I think that there's three kinds of cranial. There's three categories of cranial conditions, fixations, and they're categorized by what kind of movement is being So there's the rotational cranial faults. That's temporal bulge, parietal descent, which you've learned already. Internal frontal, external frontal, we'll learn, I think, session 7, as well as these other two universal ways. Yeah, we haven't done those yet. Sutural faults, we're going to go over today. And we're also going to go over flexion extension. We went over inspiration, expiration, and basal Elizabeth's flexion extension. Flexion extension. Glabellar is the new one in that category we're going to learn. And then the sutural faults, which are basically any suture the cranium can get jammed for a second. And any suture that gets somehow altered that way, will therapy localized and will respond to challenge and will respond to correction. So anyway, so we got one from this category, and then we're going to cover all the sutural faults. And basically, a sutural fault is any suture. And if a TL, you can pull it apart, push it together, test for a weakening of the strong indicator muscle. Test for the negation of that weakness by breath in or breath out, and then make a correction just like the way it is. So all of the sutures respond. So we do the glabellar fault first. This is one I have too many stories about, but I love this particular procedure because I do CDL physicals I have for years for truck drivers, and they have to have their blood pressure at a certain level before I test them. And if they come in and their blood pressure is kind of, borderline, and they're kind of sweating it, because, it's a big deal. I mean, this is their livelihood. I will test them for a glabellar fault and do a glabellar correction. A lot of times it'll drop their blood pressure. I've seen it drop 10 to 15 points. And then they, I can pass them. And then a lot of times I end up with a patient that way. A lot of the times these guys aren't patients. They're coming in just from CDL. So I've ended up with a lot of patients from that truck driver community because I'll do something while they're in getting their CDL. Great. I have tried to talk some of my colleagues into doing those. You have to be federally certified to do them. It takes it's about $1,000 by the time you pay for the training and the exam. Maybe it's $1,500. And it's a week of your time at least, and then you take an exam. It's not that big a deal, but there's a lot of business in there. And it's the easiest money to make. Charge $125 cash. I'm not responsible for any of their care. I'm just responsible to do an exam and write it up and send it in. And yeah, I have my office manager. She does the vision. So we do a P test. Just things. It's the easiest for me to make. I probably did some while you were there. Anyway, so this cranial has been really effective. I've been able to see it many, many times reduce blood pressure, which is what it claims to do. So, anyway, shoot, I started the wrong thing. Let's go to, since I gave glabellar that big write-up, let's go to that. Sorry. All right, so here's how you find it. Someone who offered you said you wanted me to have cranial things. So now, if we were starting with a muscle, then I might see if breath in. So we found a weak muscle for that. That's a serratus. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out, and then breathe. Perfect. So a glabellar fault, a weak muscle will strengthen to a breath in through the nostril or oral, but not both. Breathe in through your mouth. Out through your mouth. So, try this. Okay, you're slowly occurring. Into the nose, up through the nose, into the mouth. So that makes more sense. Okay. Okay. So now, TL, if you have a separate muscle, you can have the patient TL this way, or what I usually do is I go right to the treatment position, which there, that could be that's the TL, but also how we're going to challenge it. So I'm on the basically EOP and then glabella. We'll use a soft contact on both. Just going to press and challenge. So that's pot. Now, if I let her go for, I haven't treated it yet, so if I let that go, that'll probably come back. So now I'm going to do the actual pressure, which is the same thing we're going to do it about. And I'm going to do it on nasal. That's the phase. That's strength. I can feel as it, usually by about the second or third breath, start to feel the cranium, flex. Two more, just like that. Now, could have been real clever, and we could have checked your blood pressure into the mouth, up through the mouth, to the nose, up through the nose. Yeah, so that muscle's strong no matter what she does. So that's what that looks like. What it is basically is a hypertonic hypertonicity of both temporalis muscles. A lot of times your TMJ patients will have. I mean, we can do more on it, but right now, do you have any sutural faults? Oh, Pam.
I didn't find it after, but how did you declare that you had it?
Well, first I needed a reflex. So that I went to a TX lines. And I T2 of the so swing center, a tester swing center. Good. Yeah. If I say it's like these truck drivers, I'm not going to go through all that. Their blood pressure is up. I'll say lay down. They don't even know. They don't care. They're just going to pass. And I'll go in and I'll just do one simple muscle test and I'll challenge it and make sure that they do it. Then I say I'm just going to push on these pressure points here. And unless they really want, I don't give them too much. They don't even care if I get it done. That is your question. So, don't have any other, okay, so we won't have a weak muscle to work with. Let's go back to the sutural files. Now, we did sagittal suture way back when we learned um, abdominal, rectus abdominis. Okay, lambdoidal sutural fault is in the where the occiput accumulates with the parietal bones, temporal bones. Both. So you'll almost always find some kind of sutural thing on the occipital lambdoidal suture. Now I'm just going to go along the suture with some pressure. So that was easy. Now you touch right there. So it's right behind the mastoid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on that, where that suture is, I'm going to press apart, and I'm going to press, and I'm going to press apart, take a deep breath, and press apart, take a deep breath. So I'm going to do the same thing. The challenge is going to be the treatment. Pull apart. Sometimes you can feel movement, sometimes you what's that? Stop moving. You know, just flat, just kind of general. But so you can do kind of a broad so you can have the patient come and just do a broad contact on the occiput. Nothing's showing there now, but that's you can do that, then you can get over, have them touch right behind the mastoid. There. And then have go ahead and TL the sagittal. And then TL the sphenoidal, temporosphenoidal line. And there it is. See, that's the same, that's on the same suture that we find problems with the parietal descent. So, and you can, then you zero in, it's within probably, yeah, wow. Okay, have you had a parietal descent recently? You have it? So I'm going to have you breathe. I'm going to lift her, I'm just doing a parietal lift, which is usually how we treat this particular suture. Now, if somebody's had chronic tension, imbalanced tension on their neck, tight shoulder, tight trap, that's going to affect the occiput especially, and the temporal bone because of the SCM, the attachment of the SCM. Then go back to here. Can you guys see well enough? Right? We turn the light down. This is too bright. Okay, so the front is a little easier. Have your patient's TL hand, get them to hold their two or three fingers together, which is a nice broad contact. Right up here to the zygomatic. And the zygomatic axilla, the zygomatic. Been rough on your head? All of this, I think. This right here. If you guys stand, you know, the more time you spend palpating stones, the better you get to know these little nooks and crannies. I'm right on the suture now. So I'm going to have you breathe in. And breathe in. Now I'm going straight to treatment because I'm sure that's what you want. Where you'll find sutural separation is when there's usually been trauma. RX, sports, fights. So, yeah, there is the coronal suture. Now, the sagittal suture is associated with weak components. The coronal suture is often associated with this. So, moving on to the and come this way. I'm going to push you back. Now, good. There we go. So, I'm going to go to her coronal suture and I first pull apart. That just gives me a positive challenge. Have to breathe in. So, so same thing. I'm going to pull her. In. Stop 3, 4. We have a skull in here. Skull like this right here. So, coronal suture, abdominal release, sutural fault. So, once again, you challenge in the direction of correct that you think it needs to go. Right. If that causes a weak muscle, then you have them challenge and you have them. That negates the challenge, then you treat in the challenge direction of the nasal respiration. I think it was Dr. Goodhart that found that sometimes when people have differences in their pulse amplitude, that the occipital, the adenoidal suture correction would sometimes even those out. It might be on your test, definitely blood pressure and glabellar fault, those in line. Sagittal suture, rectus abdominis, that Normal suture, abdominal release. Zygomatic fall, open ileocecal valve. That may or may not be on the test. Seems like it might. Squamosal suture, we just did one on. Let's these will often be associated with TMJ and will often be associated with. So you'll often see a temporal bulge on one side, parietal ascent, TMJ hyperkineticity on that parietal ascent side. And you'll often see a category 1. You see these come in packages. So, same thing. Approximate or separate the suture depending on the challenge direction on the phase of respiration that originally negated the challenge. So, check when the temporalis is involved, TMJ and the cranials are involved. So people come in and I got headaches right here, muscle tension. So that's a really good indication that you've got the cranials need to be so it's like, oh, we didn't do the upper one. The upper one. There's three sites to test because I don't know. You can just imagine. You can get various ways. Some people birth trauma, some people come in there. Their lungs have never been. My youngest granddaughter was born with she had a flat spot right here, and of course my daughter was concerned, but I was able to work on her. It popped right out, but I did work on her quite a bit those first few weeks. But she had this pretty good flat spot. She was about 2 weeks overdue from past due, so she was not in a hurry to get out. So anyway, TMJ, any kind of cranial thing to tenderness. We just did this. Sagittal suture. This one always spreads. It never jams, according to everybody that I've talked to. And I've never found it jamming. So your rectus was really good. Try to see. Really solid. Been doing it. Does anybody here have a willing to share? Share mine, but mine's probably better. Anyone? Somebody.
Anytime I.
She keeps looking at you.
Please come on.
I know, she keeps looking at me. Not that I'm taking it personal there. Here's hoping.
Have a seat. And
A lot of sutures.
oh really? Now I've heard, they're just slightly turned, about 15 degrees, and that's not horrible. Thank you. This one, I can already tell this one. Okay, so breathe in. Hold your breath. So strengthens. That's our overall universal screening for the need for cranial. So there's a strong indicator muscle. I'm going to pull it hard and give a positive challenge. Breathe in and breath in the gaze. So pretty straightforward. Breathe in. you look at the thicker parts of the dura anchors the area of the sagittal suture. I mostly do that. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of that too. So, this again. And a little bit, turn this way, and hold. Okay, that's good. That's perfect. Let's try a little more time.
Whoa.
And turn, and then breathe in, and then breathe out. Hold the breath out. Oh, you're good. Now, you'll be accused of being an audience plan. Good example.
That's me.
You guys have that, and when you go through practical exams, they have professional actors that they still do that? Yeah, yeah. We had a guy who actually had MS. And yeah. And I think I got that. You had to, come close. I think I got that as one of the DXs I passed. Okay, so rectus. Here's the abdominal obliques. We already covered that. Glabellar fault. We're back to glabellar fault. So, any questions on glabellar? Remember this: nasal or oral, but not both.
And the indication is just to bring down blood pressure temporarily, like.
Well, it can bring it down. Okay, so it isn't just, a lot of times blood pressure would be something that would point you towards this once you're familiar with it. But, also, if someone strengthens on the breath in, you're testing weak muscles. No, it's a cranium. You don't know which cranium sometimes. And a lot of times you might start with an inspiration assist, which is pretty good. But you might find you might keep coming back. Then you want to test for temporal bulge, a little bit more set.
That's the blood pressure is more of a side effect rather than.
Blood pressure, it's the main reason I do this fall, to be quite honest. But I'll do it on regular people if I find it. If I have a chronic TMJ person, I always check for this, and they often have. They also often have pseudobasilar. So, people have TMJ, chronic TMJ, there's going to be pretty good. It's just next to TMJ, and a lot of the cranial faults will either be lessened or sometimes. Anyway, we just covered this. That you can have what we can do is just, when we workshop it, is just find a strong inferior muscle, or find a weak muscle. Have them breathe in, does the weak muscle strengthen? Go that way. Or find a strong indicator muscle and have the patient tee up for a glabellar. And then they have it, challenge it, like I did. Listen. And I usually go 4 or 5 times on, if they strengthened on oral inspiration, which occasionally happens, usually it's nasal, then I'll have them breathe in just through their mouth. I don't plug their nose. Just make sure they breathe. Just do it this first 2 weeks. Just make sure they their mouth and breathe in through their mouth. And if that's what strengthens the challenge, then that's the phase and the mode of respiration. Makes sense. So, oh, I forgot the last part. The last 2 or 3 breaths, they advise that you traction the cervicals. Now, I will do that separately. I find my hand just isn't big enough to be able to do the cranial and separate the vertebrae. So I end up doing, I always So that's in the classic AK narrative. If they ask you that in the test, the bind the traction of the upper three vertebrae during the last several. Remember that. I just forgot. So I never checked for this. I always check for sacral issues, but this is a similar fault that can occur with the sacrum. Basically, you would correct it like you would an inspiration assist sacral fault, where you're kind of putting pressure on the. So. You guys want a workshop? The cranials? And then, are you feeling the cranials? Good start in the morning with cranials. It's always a good time. So some of you might fall asleep. Everybody shows up bright and early. We can, and they'll let us in the building. We can start with it's a good way to start a Sunday. So we'll jump into thyroid. So the cranials, you can be kind of creative and inventive with cranials if you just follow those basic principles. You know which way the bones are supposed to be moving on which phase of respiration. Know that if a suture therapy localizes there's an issue there, then you can go and challenge it apart. Challenge it with a little shear force, sometimes just every which way, and see what causes the weakening, and then correct it. It's it can be really helpful to people. A lot of times they have injuries, several different kind of faults, and one or two might not be a big deal, but you get 3 or 4 together, and it starts to headaches and things like that. Thyroid. Anybody here have, besides me, have thyroid issues? What's that? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody in here gluten intolerant besides me? Five. That's not too bad. Or you're not just, or you're in denial. Has everyone been tested on? Anybody in here intolerant to solanine? Solanine. It's nightshade peptide. How about Z? Z. It's a peptide in corn. Well, it's part of the it's in the it's part of one of the core defense mechanisms. So, anybody in here milk? Much. I'm not actually. Okay, so a little more. Yeah. How many of you came to naturopathic college because of some kind of issue that it was either was digested in nature? How many of you were drawn to become naturopaths because of your own story? Other people's stories, people close to death. Sure. It's interesting. I mean, we had one student in chiropractic college who had never been to a chiropractor, and he'd never been adjusted, and he was in chiropractic college, and we did not figure that one out. Eventually, he got adjusted. But all the rest of us were total chiropractic junkies, that's why we interested. Yeah. And his father was an MD. His father had convinced him to go to chiropractic. So, I guess you could say to be a heart surgeon and never have had surgery. So, you guys know a lot of this stuff. I won't get too, I won't assume you don't, because I know you know a lot of stuff about physiology. Assume you do. It is, I was going to jump straight to iodine, one of my favorite subjects. So, how many of you take iodine that have thyroid issues? I know. You don't take iodine.
It was in myself.
And you have thyroid issue. So there's big controversy between the functional medicine docs about whether iodine worsens autoimmune thyroid or actually helps it. I had a mild case of Hashimoto's, which iodine and I have never taken thyroid medication because, fortunately, I found that off years ago, and I started cycling. I've done iodine, selenium for years, but I only take I cycle, so I kind of go pretty heavy for a week or two, and then I don't take it for a few weeks. I can kind of tell when I need to get back on it, but there's a very strongly held notion that iodine will worsen Hashimoto's, and you guys are probably and but that's not the only. If you read Brownstein, who's a functional MD doc in Michigan, he wrote this some years ago, and he's written a bunch of other books too. But he is one of the people that advocates that we need somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 14 milligrams of iodine instead of 150. Those are micrograms, I think. Because it's so important for so many other tissues, for so many other physiological processes. So, anyway, that's just my little side note. There was some study years ago where they found that iodine was worsening TPON, and they called it the Wicks, Chaikov, something like that. There's a whole thing on it. And that got stuck into the thinking of all people that deal with thyroid ever since then. It's really only one study. So, anyway, this is just for those of you who love to look at these kind of things. This shows what happens. It's a pretty amazing thing that the thyroid does, and with basically two things: tyrosine and iodine. It's about the simplest hormone. This is all stuff you know. These are lab ranges. You guys, I'm sure, look at the more tighter, more functional range, which is a little tighter than those labs. My TSH was only, it was high fours when that's how I ended up. And I thought it was fine. It'd been hovering there for a long time. Then I saw this functional medicine person and said, "Oh no, that's too high." Then I did the TPO antibody test, and sure enough, I think I was around 4. Not terribly bad. I want to be below 15, I think. Anyway, the muscle that we use for the thyroid is the teres minor. It's one of the 4 rotator muscles. And it's on the triple warmer organ and is related to the thyroid. The infraspinatus is also on the triple warmer, so it's a good one. Teres minor is very sensitive. I'm going to be testing people on supplements. I'll often use the teres I'm not testing the thyroid stuff. It's just a nice sensitive muscle test. Anyway, what it does, it externally rotates and extends. It's not a big muscle, and it ties right into the cuff, so its job is to manage the head of the when it's under load. While the bigger muscles, the big deltoids and pecs and all that, are creating big forces. This muscle's job is to kind of coordinate the effects that those loads have on the shoulder joint. So, this is how we test it. Just testing it on somebody. This is just out to the side. Don't get them too far out, they'll recruit. Chapman reflexes. T2-3. So, limiting fixation, which is interesting, we talked about that. C7, T1, first rib fixation. That, a lot of times they got thyroid stuff. Just a second. Stress receptor right here. Diagrammatic joints are that we were just working on. So these are the kind of nutritional things to think about. I got iodine on there. Selenium, of course, is important. Normal level of protein. Somebody who has a thyroid issue. Is what?
I haven't gotten it tested in a while, so I don't know.
Is minor. Are you on thyroid?
No,
Are you on a particular regimen?
I was taking thyroid and then at some point I've been out for like.
So that's a little weak there. No, we don't know. That could be. No, that was good. That was good. So is that thyroid, or is there something going on with it? Terry's mind. I'm going to go in and do what? See if that Terry's mind will turn on temporarily. Spindle up. Yeah. Spindle up. It kind of does. Yeah, it spindles up. Now go ahead. So I'm kind of happy with that. So let's let it show again. Weak again. Okay, now TL your thyroid. Yeah, look at that. So now TL right T2. Looking to see if any spinal nerve stuff maybe. Yeah, so she got something in the neck too. So I want to find out if we're trying to integrate here. So I want to find out, is it the thyroid TL or the neck TL priority? So I'm going to tap, do the temporal tap. This is how you can use it for priority. Times. Now TL your thyroid. TL your. So what stays positive response is the thyroid. So then I would test her for. Mind if we tested it? We don't have to give you anything.
No.
Can somebody man the test
Yeah, this is the other room.
There might be one over there.
Someone.
Oh, there we go. Man, the test kit. We're on it.
Or staff. I should say man, staff. So find me iodozyme, metastem, GTA, and selenium, SEzyme. Also,
What's the last one?
so as these selenium. So I'm gonna test you blind. You're both gonna be blind.
Take my
Take
glasses
your
off. I can't read that far anyway.
Is that the newest?
That's what you gotta go, I go get it.
Wait, what are you missing?
A lot.
Medicine?
Oh, you want me
Medicine. Medicine.
to?
And ADHS too. Just for fun. ADHS,
Yeah, my friend.
did you test on?
I haven't, no, I don't.
Okay, all right.
It's not
Now-
on the,
You just
not
had
on a test, we're not remembering anything.
I had you one, and you're gonna put it in your right hand. This is your left hand. That's it, okay, all right. So there's only four things. Okay, so who's the winner? So the selenium, ADHS, these tested positive, Metastim, ETA. Didn't find the IO design? Didn't want to take it.
Didn't want to take it anyway.
And the GTA is their glandular. And the Metastim is really aimed at improving T4 to T3. So actually, the Metastim is tests the best. Now, what I would have you do is, let's go back to here. TL your fat rate. I'm starting with just a strong indicator muscle. Still, it's going to happen. So the Metastim really does. I mean, testing this way, you're energetically somewhat blind. Metastim really. The other one's, this one kind of, but this would be the doing. So if you find the IO design, I'd like to test it just for fun.
I love it.
So when you're testing in the left hand,
It should, I mean, it should strengthen. For some reason, the right's a couple of more strengthened. So honestly, I would probably use a strong indicator muscle typically. TL. Probably we would reach the same because we did we had TL. Anyway, Terry's mine. So, now, let's This is something from one of Wally's slides.
There you go. And then you get.
Oh, come on, yeah. Now I know what it is, unfortunately.
Maybe something else, yeah.
Well, let's just see here. Width. Breathe out. That's strengthening. But now let's see if, and that's with you knowing what it is too. So touch your fabric. So, so it did work. Now, I think there is some iodine in the medicine. Might be just small amounts. Anyway, thank you. So adrenals and thyroid, of course, work hand in hand. We all know that like things like estrogen dominance will suppress thyroid function. It supposedly will it'll push more T3 reverse. It makes T3 that's otherwise would be very active deactivated. Nobody wants to test for reverse T3. You got to go way out of your way to get the labs for that nowadays. But now, when you guys do labs here in your clinic, you go through the whole thyroid thing. You do TPO, TGB antibodies, T4, T3, free T3, all that. That, I mean, that's the only way to really. Otherwise, you're testing TSH, which isn't even a thyroid hormone. Tricky is when somebody comes in and they've got normal TSH, dead normal, but they've got every thyroid, hypothyroid symptom on the list. Those are the ones that are, tricky, and a lot of times, I think they're a conversion problem. The thyroid's, as far as the pituitary is concerned, it's counting enough T3s and T4s coming by, so it's not changing its message, but that T4 isn't getting converted. It gets converted largely in the liver and the gut. So things like generalized toxicity, inflammation, of course, can diminish the body's ability to carry out normal actions like that. Anyway, women need more iodine because their ovaries are high consumers of iodine. It's like men need more zinc. Prostate uses more zinc. Anyway, the list of hypothyroid, it's like every awful thing you can think of. Thick mucus, that's an interesting, iodine is essential. I know I sound like an iodine salesman, but iodine is essential for the enzyme mucinase. So in order for our secretions to be able to flow and do their job correctly, they need to be thin. Iodine's a key part of that. So iodine deficiency tends to affect all of our secreting issues, lining of our sinuses and our gut, and like that. So anyway, there's all kinds of hyperthyroidism we don't see as often, but honestly, I think when I see hyperthyroidism, to me is more scary than certainly than hypo. Some of those people are only had a few patients over the years that were really severe. Anyway, toxicity. Oh, the other thing too, and you guys I'm sure know this, there was a kind of an epidemic of goiters back in the 20s and 30s, and that's when they started putting iodine in commercial bread and a few other things, and of course salt. In the early 70s, they quit putting iodine in commercial bread because of that stuff, that mixed strike off. They started putting bromine instead. And bromine is, of course, it competes for the attachment sites, just like fluorine does or fluoride does, which is, makes for a good argument against fluorination of public water. So there's a lot of things, these other halogens will compete binding sites with iodine. Anyway, read Brownstein when you get around to it, and some of the other people in his camp. It's always worth. They have a pretty good explanation of why they think iodine's good. But most of the thyroid hormone we produce, of course, is T4. It's like a sleeping. It's like a hand grenade with a pin in it. Then when we need the energy, we turn it into a very active, reactive hormone, which is T3. Liver, gut, small intestine. Some of the conversion, I understand, takes place right at the cell wall, or at the just inside the cell. Anyway. This was one of the people that Brownstein, Gordon Barnes, he basically studied with him for years and kind of took up the cause. And he, of course, this is the old-fashioned axillary temperature test. This is Wally Schmidt's book on, this is a really old book, but a really good one. If you ever do go for Diplomate, okay, and his other book, his blue book and his green book. Anyway, that's axillary, you guys have, yeah, you know. I find a lot of times people's adrenals are compensating for it. And so and if their adrenals are pretty strong, they can get by for a long time. Kind of compensate. But at some point, everything has to. This is we will. This is these are some of the common things that are used. Do you guys use a early timer? Still can get that. You use synthetic stuff too. Anyway, this is a whole bunch of. Let's do. We got hour and a half. Hour. We got an hour. Let's do the shoulder muscles. Unless you guys want to do some more thyroid testing. Can you bring up the shoulders, the muscle slides?
The muscle slide.
Yep. You guys ever do that? There's an old iodine test where you iodine on using the belly or the thigh and time how long. You guys can do that. Time how long it takes for the iodine.
Our teacher said that just absorbs it.
You do the zinc tally test, zinc taste test.
Yeah.
That, and you'll watch that change too. If you get them on zinc, in months they come back and give them the test again. And see that. I should be testing everybody on zinc, but I don't get. So, here we go. Anybody need to stretch or anything?
Yes.
Stretch. But we can stretch in here. You need that.
Yes, I do. Sunlight.
Go bring some back with you.
Or is it?
It's like a little rare page.
Okay.
It was too large for me to send.
Oh, okay, so there.
It's in the drive. Yep, in the drive. Gotta reload button. Because some people have to bring that.
Back on.
You play me?
DoorDash, monsters.
Get your exercise and run to the gas station.
Yeah, literally, that's just right down there.
Gas station. Last week. Selling food. Only selling.
They're only selling.
You know, which moves item.
And I want.
I did hear about this.
Call
He knows.
items.
Oh.
Of course he does.
No,
He's
that
like,
was,
see you later. She just moved for fun. I didn't know.
well, I don't know. You know, she wasn't real,
And monsters.
she wasn't offering.
I'm surprised you don't like keep some in your car.
No, I'm surprised you don't have like a
I
backlog.
know, 'cause I-
Yeah, exactly, like an emergency stash.
We're not, we don't, I don't know.
Like in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
So my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
great for a change.
He might have drank.
Which ones are the
They
ones you
have, they all
I used to hang out at town line.
Really?
Exactly.
yeah.
What do you like?
Winter.
I'm not, never mind, I'm not gonna
Oh, that's nice. So you heard the white one is the nice. I've never had.
Why would it be popular? For
A
sure,
lot of,
sugar-free side.
a lot of memories.
Yeah.
Make a lot of like.
A little bit of trouble there.
I like the green one though.
I've never had one.
For them, we got so much free monster, and my mom would share it with. She wouldn't allow us to drink it, actually.
So excited to start seeing.
I'm ready, guys.
Six,
Chomping at the bit.
6 and 1.
6 my first.
How many, how long would you?
Oh, yeah. Oh. You hear me? You did.
Yeah.
I mean, some people I barely remember. Had more than a few of those that last few months. It's been interesting.
Really?
People just research.
That's funny. It's just need you again.
Well, or something. It's like, it's hard to know how the relationship. Understood. Because they're unique relationships.
Oh, yeah.
They have unique. Unique, whole unique dynamic. Set of rules.
Yeah.
But you can't not. Really get.
Yeah, you get invested.
Yeah, and, that's sometimes hard to manage.
For sure.
I know, this feels good to stretch the legs.
Yep.
They have a cable machine at the gym where I stay. And I wish I had, the only time I do a workout with a cable machine is when I come down here. I wish I had one, had access.
Oh, at home.
Do you have
Yeah,
cups,
or-
like cupping cups?
I've had gym membership for years, but then I haven't,
You
I haven't.
needed to do
I
that
don't know,
cup
gym
thing
membership.
first year.
I still have one.
Oh.
But I'm not gonna have some.
I mean, that's what she's like into doing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get every angle.
I know, that's why I said, no.
I might like flip it here, like go to the back.
You could,
So,
yeah. And then that way she doesn't have to do it.
I've got.
Yeah, I just
I've got
idea.
next
I know
bar,
that's worked for like people.
just the dumbbells, I've got isometric,
I know.
I've got
What about those signs keeping up since I slipped?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know this, and if I don't know this, then it's a phobia.
Oh, I got, straps, TRX, TRX. I'm like ADD. My body needs. TRX is fun. I'll put it out on the deck and then warm months and hang it from there.
The bouldering project.
I would love to go. My granddaughters. What's that? Right.
Encourage. You gonna? What the else is here? Sure. I'm so well behaved.
Are you guys ready? We have,
Let's do it.
58 minutes. 58 minutes. So, anybody in here have shoulder problems? I mean, oh my God.
Everybody has shoulder
Good. Okay, so here's how I'm going to approach the shoulder. It's a very complicated joint with a lot of moving parts. There's 3 categories of muscles that we look at functionally. Or anatomically. There's the muscles that go from the ribs, spine to the scapula. Like the rhomboid, levator, the subclavius, which is we're going to learn here a little bit. Upper, middle, and lower trap. They go straight from the spine to the scapula. Then there's the group that goes from the spine or the ribs directly to the humerus. That's going to be your latissimus dorsi and your pectoralis major, clavicular, and sternum. They go from the body wall directly to the humerus. Then you've got the ones that go scapula to the humerus, and that's going to be, of course, the rotator cuff muscles, the sits muscles, then the teres major, deltoid. So these are the ones that are often what we really need to understand when we're treating shoulders. These others too, but because there's only one bony attachment between the body and the shoulder, and that's this small little clavicle. So basically, all the integrity of the upper extremities, shoulder has to do with muscle strength. And we've all known people who've actually broken their collarbone, and it's not they survive pretty good. They heal up pretty fast, and usually it's one of the better shoulder injuries to get if you're going to get one. So here's just a little picture here. This is from the, looking from the back. Supraspinatus, Aries minor, we just talked about that. Coracobrachialis, this is looking at it from behind. It attaches into the humerus. It's often an overlooked muscle. Shoulder problems, I find. Coracobrachialis, pec minor, often get overlooked. Pec minor attaches to the coracoid process, and so does the coracobrachialis. So there's that. One goes this way, one goes this way. They have to do with this motion, this kind of action. And very often these muscles are involved more in stabilizing than actual movement, and that's how they end up. So we already know the deltoid. We've learned the pecs. This is interesting. This one anatomical app I have talks about this. They call it the sternal abdominal head of the pec. Are you guys familiar with that? That's just something I've been noticing on some of the newer anatomy apps. It's basically like an extra small division of the pec. Anyway, interesting. And I do know a lot of times when I'm working with a pec major sternal, there'll be a lot of kinetic chain connection between that muscle and the oblique. When doing this motion like this, it's all acting as a spiral kinetic chain. So, Aries minor, we just covered this. All of these muscles are innervated by the neck. Related to the thyroid, triple warmer meridian, external rotator of the humerus, stabilizes. What other muscle stabilizes the heavy humerus? About those of you who are muscle nerds. Subscapularis. Primary role is to guard down and depress the head of the humerus. So anytime there's been a shoulder injury, a lot of times the teres minor is either shutting down and not functioning well, or it's hypertonic. Hypertonic teres minor, you'll see this postural, you'll see this kind of thing. Sometimes you'll see it in posture, you'll see people where their hands are kind of like this. And a lot of times you wonder if it's the middle trap, maybe the teres minor, just kind of holding them in the position. Because normally there's a little bit of internal rotation when the shoulder can relax. So a weak teres minor, you're going to see this. This is how we test it. 90 degrees, full external rotation. Sometimes they don't go out very far, sometimes they go quite a ways, but you want to take it to that full external rotation. You're dealing with a problem when you eventually want to test it in several different ways. Main test is going to be static reflexes. Once again, covered this. Iodine C, anything you can think of that might help. Selenium's not in there. Infraspinatus, also triple warmer, related more to the thymus. This is Dr. Wally Schmidt used to use this muscle a lot for testing reflexes and immune-related conditions. Found it to be a really good sensitive muscle for that. And of course, it's one of the 4 rotator cuff muscles, so it's very involved a lot of times in shoulder injury. Externally rotates, especially, and now you see people testing it in this position. I'm going to teach you to test it in this position. This position, there's too many other muscles that can help you miss some of the weaknesses. And you'll see books where they're testing it like this. It's fine to test it like this, but this is going to give you your best, your most isolated test of the infra. Now, the infraspinatus and the subscapularis are antagonistic. So there's a weak subscap. A lot of times you'll have a hyperspinatus. So you can see Dr. Bob's got their hand. I'll go through these, then I'll demonstrate them really quick. So there's two ways to test it. This, I think, is the most accurate. First, it's functioning very much in this position too. So, reflexes down close to where the liver arm points are, slightly medial. So this is a point that is also very close to the, it's a little above the alarm point for the pericardium or circulation C6, just right near the angle fluid. That's the neurovascular point. So remember almost all of the neurovascular points are on the head, except for the infraspinatus and popliteus. Popliteus is down here on the side of the knee. That may or may not be under. I mean, I honestly can't be sure, but that's something they would put on the table. So any of your thymus things, anything immune, different, herbal, just think immune with infraspinatus. A lot of times I'll test it and against the spleen points. Supraspinatus, it's the smallest of the 6 muscles and probably the most injured, most oft injured. And often it gets kind of frayed and thin and inflamed, and you get this kind of rotator cuff tendinitis and very frustrating. So it's related to the brain on an organ-muscle relationship, and it's related to the governing vessel. So often injured with shoulder dislocation. It's often injured with severe compaction injuries like this. Probably the most common way to injure it is trying to do things like flies, too heavy of flies, or maybe pulling a chain or something like this, and at some point the supraspinatus, which is a very small muscle, gets too much because it initiates abduction, but then it's working. So if the other abductors don't take up the load, a lot of times it can be very vulnerable situation. Now the way you remember serratus anterior, this is the upper, middle, and lower division. Supraspinatus is just a little bit lower and not quite as externally rotated. So it's about like if you were going to naturally abduct the arm, it's like the first 20. That's about how some people will externally rotate more, and that's okay, but it's about like that. You were holding a stick, the stick would be at about a 45. Not to get too nitpicky, but sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the lower division of the serratus and supraspinatus. Often they're both involved in shoulder problem. Chapman's, right up here. The classic, the vascular reflex, remember at the bregma, it's all heart, brain, and lung related muscles. How do you remember that? It's going to be heart, brain, and lung. So you got your, corticoserratus muscles. You've got supraspinatus, heart, subscapularis, all they're Chapman. They're Bennett pointer holders. So Dr. Goodhart used to use RNA from standard process a lot of times as a supplement. Brain felt that it was really good for kind of tuning up the brain. I think, I'm not sure if Biotics has an RNA. No, Standard still makes their RNA. So really anything as far as precursors, if you're looking at nutrition stuff, things that are going to aid in production of neurotransmitters. So the oh, here we go. This is the heart-related muscle, the subscapularis. Very hard to get at. You can get at the lateral portion of it. It's an internal rotator. In this position, it's an internal rotator. In abduction, it's more of an internal stabilizer and humeral head pressor. So it's very important for normal shoulder function. And when it gets out of whack, there's a lot of problems. Now, I probably mentioned this when we were talking about serratus anterior. Serratus anterior, such a common muscle that goes weak on people. And when they're doing things with their arms, if that serratus isn't firing well, you've got all these other smaller, specialized intrinsic muscles trying to do their job unstable. It's like trying to fix that lamp standing on a trampoline. And it throws all kinds of weird neurology into these muscles, which makes them not inhibit when they should, fire when they should at times. So this is our classic heart muscle. So internal rotator, abduction, and of course, stabilizes the humeral. This is often a problem with adhesive capsulitis. A lot of times the subscap will lose its ability to bring the shoulder into internal. I get fairly good luck when I address the infraspinatus a lot of times. Hopefully we'll have some. There's the subscap. Now this patient, she's got pretty good internal rotation. A lot of times they're not that far, so you just got to take it wherever it goes and test it. And somebody we were testing earlier, at first they were, maybe it was we were workshopping, kind of tight, and pretty soon you did that. Yeah, it was Keelan, yeah. Anyway, be gentle with this one. See how Dr. Rob has got his arm there? That's a really good way to keep that upper arm from lowering or trying to contort, and also making a nice broad stabilizing, keeping a nice broad stabilization over the shoulder itself. Now the anterior Chapman reflexes, the subscap shares with the teres, which is convenient. Get them both at the same time. Is the brain, lung, heart. So with heart, I don't do, B vitamins, of course, a lot of times people are on synthetic Bs, and that's the problem. Try to get them off those, get them on. I usually find myself working more on adrenals stuff. You know, the adrenals are, when people are more and more coming in on things like beta blockers, which upsurge. And those drugs are really hard. And you can keep them off that stuff. You know, there's what, 4 categories of blood pressure medications now. Basically, there's ACE inhibitors, which is like lisinopril. There's beta blockers. ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers. And isn't that what the ACE inhibitors are? Does the ACE inhibitors affect the purchase? It's a hormone. What?
It's a conversion.
Yes.
But hydrochloride.
So they're either trying to take pressure off by getting rid of more water.
Yeah, but they're extended.
Or they're turning down, or both, turning down the heart's ability to respond to adrenal hormones. And So, I mean, it's crazy. But some people, I mean, if people with runaway blood pressure, they're gonna, seeing people stroke out is no either. Anyway, blood sugar support, adrenal support, I mean, that's kind of where I focus when I'm helping people. A lot of times my patients are seeing naturopaths and MDs and everybody else the same. Anyway, cortical brachialis, one of the oft overlooked muscles. It flexes and adducts the humerus. So if it's working by itself, it does this. But it's usually working, of course, with pec minor. Do this. So something like a tennis, a big, or something where you're putting a lot of load this way is going to bring those muscles in. Way we test it now, I think he's testing. Yeah, I think he's doing it the same way. There's a couple ways to test it. Somebody come up. So, so teres minor, neutral brachium, external rotation. There's different ways to, if I want to get a weak muscle, do that. Squeeze your wrist. Don't squeeze your wrist, bring your hand. Just give it like this. If you're here, get a false positive. If you're right on the joint, false positive. You want to keep that really honest. Same thing with the infra. Come up here, and you can start here. Sometimes they're kind of stiff and they can't. I usually am to the side there. Get my hand. That was kind of weak. That was definitely, that was weak. Okay. All right, so that's the infra. Then our subscap, 90 degrees, full internal rotation. She's got pretty good. I usually do like a kind of a grasp shake, a row handshake or something. There, push down. That's kind of weak. Yeah. Now, if I do this, I can really keep her stable, keep that axis stable. That one's weak too. So, infra and subscap, two of the rotator cuff muscles. Now the supraspinatus, right here. So the teres minor is strong. So she's got one of the four. Think she might have a compaction? I think she's got something else. So coracobrachialis, full elbow flexion, bring brachium up and adduct. My arm, my vector is going to be like this. So some books you'll see the examiner sit on the end. The examiner will come in like this, and this is how I was actually taught. See my thumb? But that's a great way to get a false positive, pressing right on her bicipital tendon. So I come out here on the edge of her elbow. I use a web contact. There's not much in the way of sensory, and I push this way. And it's still weak. Okay. Still weak. That's it. Now I would automatically then go to pec minor. Pec minor. So then I would go to the common That's the coracoid process where they both attach. Just gonna hold that for a little bit. You could TL it, but I'm gonna go straight, okay? It's tender, huh? I'm basically doing origin insertion. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna have to adjust your neck. So, push. That brought that right. Let's see if it affected the others, because that could be, this was weak. Spinatus, but still weak. That's better. This one was strong and clear, and now it's weak. So that's interesting. So she's got several things going on there. And you injured her. How? So I'm going to rub this and check it for iron. So we get a little bit. So yeah, lay on your back. So I'm going to do an IRT on that. If I don't, so it was rotator cuff surgery? No, just. So I'm just going to get all around that cuff. It's not terrible. It's not that bad. So then I'm going to go, because it's above T6, I'm going to bring her head up and give her a little tip. Infraspinatus, that's back on. Subscapularis, that's on. Supraspinatus, that's on. What else do we have? Brachialis and pec minor, it was weak. Yeah, so that was just, now there's more there, obviously, but that's what IRT will do. Check it tomorrow. Traumatized. In the fall, surgery, surgery can be a trauma. You disrupt the matrix of the connective tissue. Then it has to heal back. There's a chance for that patterns. Some injuries don't result in an IRT pattern, or they do, and then eventually it's unwired from the brain on its own, but sometimes it just sticks in there. So, anyway, coracobrachialis, lung-related, lung nutrition. So, yeah, lung meridian, lung as an organ, along with what other muscles that are lung-related? Name deltoid. What else? Serratus, anterior. Okay, so coraco, a lot on the coraco. Okay. Biceps, two heads. Both of them attached to the scapula. The bicep, both of the bicep heads are involved in humeral flexion as well as arm flexion. The long head crosses up over the humeral head and anchors into the back of the. And that muscle I find problematic all the time. Somebody come up. So the biceps, They flex the elbow, they flex the brachium, they also supinate the forearm. Because of their attachment, as they do this, they naturally. Somebody with a shoulder problem, this side, yeah, you come. Is it? Yeah. So the way we test the bicep is, the way we test the long head is like so. So biceps as a group, long head. Now I will often test it like this. Which a lot of times it will test okay this way, but when you straighten that, it will really let that relax. Now that tendon has to fall into this groove, bicipital. And it's a shallow groove. And there's a tendency for it to want to slip medium. Slip bicipital tendon. Sometimes that'll turn right back on if you just kind of clear. There. So the hardest thing for that to do is to hold out like that. So when it holds that, we know we. Yeah. Okay. That was exactly what I was hoping. So long head, you've heard of slat tears. Anterior labral something. Tears, where the anterior, where the tendon of the long head of the biceps will kind of tear loose from the labrum. And they will act a lot like a rotator cuff injury. And often are treated. A lot of times they're happening along with the rotator. So there's 80 degrees, you're just shy of 90. You want just shy of 90 degrees. And there's the long head, and that's the classic way to test it. The more you straighten the elbow, I think you get a wellness test. It's real world.
So you're past 90 then?
With this one, you're bend the elbow to 90, and then you flex the brachium, because you're really testing the brachial flexion part of the muscle. Where here you're testing the elbow, more the elbow flexion function of the muscle. But honestly, that test alone, you need to do it with a little straighter arm and a broader contact like we do. Chapman reflexes are basically where the stomach Chapman is. Biceps is related to the stomach. Organ, muscle relationship, and it's related to the stomach. Chapman is just on the left side, just like the pec major clavicular. Pressure receptor, these are the same as the emotional neurovascular stomach-related stuff. You got your standard process thing here, betaine, cells, LACAN. You're always thinking zinc, and what does the body need to make that really strong acid so it can digest our protein? I don't use a ton of the standard stuff anymore. I use a lot of HCl, hydrozyme, and HCl plus. So brachioradialis goes from the more distal humerus clear down into the wrist. So it's a elbow flexor, and it also assists. They say it assists in pronation. It actually pronates from this position. It supinates from this position. So depending on where your wrist is, that brachioradialis, a lot of times it's involved in this motion where you're like doing something like this, and it gets involved. But it'll work either way. So it's working to flex your elbow. Hammer curls, you Those are really targeting, of course, the biceps, but also the brachioradialis. Really good to do because I find that this muscle to get really get older, they don't work on. Remember this for the test, the brachioradialis, Dr. Goodhart considered the sleep muscle. He found it to be a really sensitive muscle to test for kind of sleep-related condition. I think that might show up on your test. So brachioradialis, sleep muscle. Coracobrachialis is the slick back your hair muscle. Has a lymphatic zone, follows kind of crosswise, or kind of follows the pecs, and then right at the top of the where the supraspinatus is. Page for the. It is kind of a unique muscle the way it functions. Triceps goes from one of the muscles crosses the shoulder joint, the other two just cross the elbow joint. All three of them cross there. But one of them crosses both, medial head. Sorry, long head. The long head crosses both. Lateral head and the medial head start at the beginning. So this muscle is along with the latissimus dorsi. It's related to the pancreas and the spleen meridian. It's like the lab. Classic postural thing. Somebody standing like this. A lot of times you'll see this. It's kind of that's a real obvious version, but that's really what you're looking at. You tell them to straighten their arm, and they're like, well, they are straight. It's usually because the biceps are tight and the triceps are weak. So same position as the bicep, about 80 degrees, lateral head, medial head, and with the thumb up in neutral, long head. We're testing. Somebody come up again. Good. Not good, but which one? So, so we're going to test her lateral head tricep. Long head, I'm going to be testing. Now, there's another way to test, and that's where I push here and I stabilize it. That's, sometimes that will really test the long head. That's the tricep. And then the bicep, I was right at my bicep. And there would be long head. And if you do this, a lot of times I will have them do this. I'll test the whole chain. Because now you're asking all of these muscles to talk to one another. That's how we use our arm, right? We pick something up like that. But if we only test it this way, we'll kind of miss that. It's just that wrist was what's the other one? Okay, so long head. Brachioradialis, thank you. Brachioradialis, I'll kind of do it from this side here. So about the same position, hand in neutral, stabilize here, push up. You can see the muscle go. Whoop. Sometimes you can test it at different angles, see if there's a yeah, that was me. So let's go into the muscle first. I'm just gonna spindle up. Okay, so it spindles up, so I'm not considering RT as the Chapman reflex is kind of in line with it. So just kind of. So that would be an option. You take your hand, and a lot of times I'll put the patient's hand, especially with women, just kind of do one of these, or I'll take my percussor, their fingers on it, or mine, I'll put the percussor there, and that will usually stimulate some. And then just kind of moving that, ooh. Yeah, that's, shoulder with history. Yeah. You're stuck with one another, that's for sure. Ah, there we go. So, I mean, we can keep searching to see if this, that's right here. Now if that, see that's good. So if that went weak, then I would know I needed to do these Chapman reflex. Okay, thank you. So brachioradialis. There's the tricep.